designing a building is not something that a lot of craftspeople have done. Like, they might have done a lot of shows. They might have a huge amount of experience in doing art shows. But when someone says, how big do you want your doorway to be? They don't necessarily have an answer for that. Hello, my darlings. I want to talk a little bit about the design of shops, artisan shops inside a Renaissance Fair park. We might get into food too, but these shops are built, designed, or purchased by the artists and craftspeople that are selling out of them. The way that the permanent park formula works, those shops are built by vendors, and the festival maintains the grounds, does all the advertising, still charges a fee of these people, and that money is what goes to buying ad space and paying somebody to do the social media. But it allows for a varied and interesting and complex neighborhood that builds the exterior walls of the guest space inside a Renaissance Fair. And it's one of the things that makes these festivals really magical. All these different types of structures, and carpenters get to really be expressive. But designing a building is not something that a lot of craftspeople have done. Like, they might have done a lot of shows. They might have a huge amount of experience in doing art shows and selling their product there. But when someone says, how big do you want your doorway to be? They don't necessarily have an answer for that. I have an answer for that. The answer is bigger than one person and a stroller can block. Okay? Think about that. Just like when you're putting a roof on a building, you have to think like a raindrop. When you're shaping the roof, you have to think about barriers to commerce when you're designing a shop in a park, because you don't want to make it difficult for people to come in and spend money with you. You want them to happily just find themselves in your shop, surrounded by beautiful things and ready to buy them. This means that we're designing for introverts, we're designing for people with mobility issues, we're designing for, you need space for people to try things on if you're selling costuming. There's a lot of those elements, and some of that takes some experience. It's almost kind of nicer to rent a shop or work in somebody else's shop for a while and figure out what elements you liked and don't like. But unfortunately, what happens often is people who are relatively new to Renaissance fairs just kind of suddenly find themselves in a situation of having to design their shop. And they're either trying to build it themselves, or they're trying to find a builder to build on a Renaissance Fair site, who, if they're a commercial carpenter, they probably haven't done very many Renaissance Fair booths to begin with. So somebody has to explain to them what the parameters are. And they can walk around a show, but every shop is selling a different product, and the shape of a booth and the shape of a display space is completely related to what the product is. So it's one of those things that people don't know they need to think about, right? So I recommend that every show you go to, if you are looking at doing Renaissance fairs as a business, start really scrutinizing the shops and what you like and don't like, and watch. Like, there's a reason. I know malls are failing, but there was a lot of math put into mall layout. We were told people will not go up. 30% of the people will not go up a step to spend money. So 65% of people will not go up 2 steps to spend money. They've got to just kind of end up there. So any elevation changes need to be addressed, not just because of ADA, but because you want people to be in your shop enjoying your product. So you also need to think about drainage. Can't dig a hole and build your booth in there because now you're going to be shoveling mud out when it rains. So thinking about elevation, thinking about the width of doorways or having more than one doorway. Some people, introverts, like an escape route. They want to make it through your shop without having to engage with a human being. And some people set up a shop where it's like they're sitting at the back and you can't get in the shop without making eye contact with a vendor. Now, there's reasons that that's important. You need people to know that there's eyes on them when they're looking at your cases full of jewelry. But you also don't want to turn them off when they're trying to figure out where they want to spend their money. So think about strollers, think about drunks, think about steps, find out what the ADA rulings are about what your access needs to be. I know a show that is currently going through the entire site and grinding out every little tree root that was a tripping hazard. Like piling wood chips over it is not enough for the local ADA inspector. So for years, there's been a lot of assumption about, well, people are outdoors. They know they're basically on a hike. Yeah, not so much. It's a commercial venue and you do need to meet ADA requirements. So think about what makes the best shop for you, because if you're going to do Renaissance fairs for a living and you're a craftsperson, you might have to design your own shop. And so start looking at what elements what works. Some of the best business advice I've been given is find out what you respond to, right? What makes you have a positive response about a product or an environment, and then start listing those elements so that you know what it is you want from a space. Maybe what's really important to you is not having to take all your product down at night, and so you want to be able to close up your shop well. But in that case, sometimes the doorways you've built have now made the entrances so narrow, or the space, your shop, it feels kind of dark because you made a bunch of shutters so that you could close up the booth at night. It's possible to make shutters and not make the booth too dark. You just have to think about it. So that's my explainer for today. And that is that people who've never had to design buildings can really find themselves in a situation where they have to design a building for themselves and explain it to a carpenter. And so the best way to do it is just to start a catalog of your favorite elements. Every time you go in another shop, decide if something appeals to you or does not, and start a list, whether it's just an ongoing note in your phone, or you want to play with collecting things onto a Pinterest board for looks and feels. It's really helpful to start thinking of it before you need the info. And I guess, this applies to show owners and managers too, because you're making decisions about what buildings you're going to approve. And you don't want to approve a building that somebody's not going to sell any product out of, because not only are they not going to work, but then they're going to try to sell that shop and it's not going to sell for as much because it doesn't work. So that's the explainer for today, or just the little thing to think about. I have a modern merchant's guide that goes over this and application best practices and kind of all the things you need to know to be a vendor in the industry. And there is a wait list ready for it on my website at ronnie.com. So you can go check that out.